your volume down a little bit. Okay. Recording now. Recording has started. Okay. We have a guest speaker today. It's Zime. She's from South Africa. And she's going to talk about industry disruption, introduce the concept of blockchain, which is important to supply chain management. But she's going to talk about an application in the kind of arcane real estate transactions in South Africa. So Zime, it's all yours.
There's that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Imagine if you could re-engineer the entire world. If you had the past, the present, and the future at the very edge of your fingertips, what would you do with all of that power? Good day, everyone. My name is Nxumalo, and I'm the CEO and founder of Zime Creatives, a software and blockchain development company that is currently based in the sunny South Africa. And it is a great pleasure and honor for me to be standing on the stage representing my country, South Africa, as was my university, the Durban University of Technology. Now, I want us to go back to the very, very beginnings of the internet, the Web 1.0, the much more static, mundane collage of static web pages that we once had no choice but to consume. Now, fast forward a little bit into the Web 2.0, the much more user-centric one, the one that we're using right now. We get to be a part of the content creation and distribution, but how many of us here had actually read the fine print when we first signed up for our very first Facebook, Instagram, or any other social media account? Did you read the fine print? Okay. How many of us here had actually paid for our monthly subscription for our Facebook, Instagram, any other social media account? Anyone?
Did he do that?
Okay. Now, don't you find it a little bit strange that when you look up something as mundane, such as the Chicago deep dish recipe, for example, on Google in one moment, and then you switch into your social media accounts in the very next, that you're immediately bombarded by the Chicago deep dish recipe, as well as new group cooking recommendations? Isn't that a little bit strange? Well, amongst the long, mundane lines of fine text, as well as terms that you and I had knowingly or unknowingly actually agreed to, part of it entails that Facebook is not free. None of the other social media accounts actually are. We actually pay for our social media accounts by us giving our personal information in exchange for their service. Now, that information that is in turn used in terms of against us in marketing tactics. Now, that makes it a little bit strange, isn't it? Okay. But isn't there a way in which we can take back our power, our constitutional rights to privacy back? Now, well, that comes the Web 3.0, a trustless, permissionless system, a system that enables us to take back our power as a people. And the reason why, apart from the fact that Web 2.0 is a little bit creepy in terms of the way in which data is taken from us and then used against us, another part of it entails is that there's a key principle upon this entire world runs, and that principle is that power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Take a look at our governmental institutions, for example. How much has that absolute power corrupted those institutions? And what are we doing about that? What exactly is our response? How do we take back our power as a people? How do we go about responding, if not for ourselves, but for our children and our children's children? Basically, what I'm asking you is, how do we change the way the world works right now? Well-being. We utilize what is called the Web 3.0, a web that is based on the blockchain technology, which is a trustless, permissionless system.
Okay, what, to ask questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, go ahead. You're driving the car.
I want to insert a little bit of questions. Does anyone have questions right now?
It's just like when I teach.
Everyone understanding so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So to actually continue on the corruption of power, our base weapon in the coming world is the Web 3.0, because honestly, the biggest thing that we want in terms of the Web 3.0 is to facilitate what is called trust. We trust because that's the very foundation upon which the entire world runs. We trust in these institutions to be just and fair. We trust in each other to be honest and fair. But in reality, we live in a world that is filled with greed, corruption, and deceit. So how does one begin to trust an untrustworthy system? And in reality, we actually don't. That is the very same reason why that you would spend your time going through those product reviews prior to you making the purchase, because you simply don't trust the person that you are transacting or even interacting with. Now, in order for us to be able to facilitate the trust, we have the Web 3.0. And due to that Web 3.0, we are about to explore the 3 characteristics that actually make it the web of the future. As we said, that the blockchain is trustless, permissionless, and immutable. Now, due to it being so, this technology has the potential to completely disrupt the existing business models, such as the $7 trillion banking sector, as we have currently seen in terms of the way in which the blockchain has even changed the way in which we converse in terms of banking. So, we're going to be exploring the 3 characteristics. First of all, trustless. Now, I want you to think of a bank, a much more trusted institution, right? It has a centralized database. Now, part of the problem of it being a centralized database is the lack of transparency there that could lead to corruption as well as manipulation and fraud. Now, what the blockchain does in terms, apart from that, you also find that since it is centralized, it is much more vulnerable in terms of cyber attacks that have costed the banking industry $13.2 million per company per annum in the much more recent years. Now, in answer to that, the blockchain has developed a distributed database, which basically works as you would think as a Wikipedia page. Whatever it is that you edit on the page, everyone has access to seeing what you've edited, as well as the history of the modifications. Because when you are entered into the blockchain network, you, as well as every other computer that is actually present in the network, has a copy of the database. Therefore, you yourself can also act as a bank would in terms of you being able to authenticate and verify transactions, which makes it much more harder for it to be manipulated. And because of that, you find that the blockchain is immutable. By it being immutable means that it is very impossible to manipulate. The reason why that is so is because each and every single information that you upload onto the blockchain is uploaded into a data structure that is referred to as being blocks. Now, every modification that you make onto whatever information that you've uploaded thus far would result in the creation of a new block, which is then connected via code that is referred to as being chains. The code basically just secures and ensures the authenticity of the information. And lastly, is that it is permissionless. The blockchain takes out the need for intermediary parties. So when we go back to our first example of you looking up the Chicago deep dish recipe, you know that when you sent that request, it got sent over to the internet, from the internet into that server, then from the server back to that result being displayed onto your screen. Now the blockchain enables you not to go through the internet, but to be able to converse with the service directly. That is going to then also save you in terms of time, as well as the cost that is associated with you conversing or with the intermediaries being involved. So the reason why this is so important, as you can see in terms of the differing applications of blockchain, a great application that I've seen is in the supply chain management, to be much more exact, in the food industry part of the supply chain management. A great example is Walmart working in collaboration with IBM in order for them to develop a blockchain-based system to be able to track their food parcels in terms of their origin. They were able to narrow down a process that used to take them weeks to months to be able to execute into it's taking them 2 seconds on the blockchain. Another great example is via government. There is a company in Netherlands that is currently implementing a blockchain voting system that, since taking advantage of the characteristics of blockchain, of it being transparent, it enables for there to be no corruption. And apart from there being no corruption, since everyone can actually see the voting system and count it for themselves, it enables the government to be much more accountable towards their citizens. In terms of healthcare, blockchain is a great structure or data structure to be used in terms of record keeping. Therefore, you're able to host a patient's entire medical history, which is then transacted in terms of makes the process much more seamless. And apart from that, you can also use what is referred to as a self-sovereign identity, which takes out the need for us to actually be utilizing or even having ID cards and passports or anything that is going to identify you, as those documents can just be saved onto your blockchain. The great thing about that is that blockchain is immutable. Therefore, you don't need to continuously make an ID card that can be lost or either stolen. And apart from that, you get to control the kind of access that both public and private parties have in terms of your information. So you can think of it in a sense of the next time that a person, such as a waitress, asks if you're within the drinking limit, when you're ordering maybe a bottle of wine, instead of showing them your entire ID card and eventually showing more information about yourself, that could also cause risks to you being cyber attacked at a later stage. You can just actually filter down the kind of information that you can send both to government and public private entities. Crypto assets. There's been a little bit of confusion with regards to crypto assets, okay? Let me not play it down. There's been a lot of confusion with regards to crypto assets, and I think that most of us here were still trying to wrap our minds around the blockchain concept when all of a sudden there's now NFTs. And I'm sure a lot of us are still trying to understand what is really blockchain and what exactly is Bitcoin. But in order for us to truly understand it, I feel like we should break it down a little bit. In terms of crypto assets are basically digital representations of value. They could either be stored or transacted electronically, to really simplify it. And in terms of NFTs, majority of the time you can think about it in a sense of you walking into a gallery, since non-fungible token basically stands for something that is irreplaceable. You can look at it as you purchasing something like the Mona Lisa. So the value mostly of the NFT depends on the public view in terms of how they tend to value it. But all of this is transacted via the blockchain too. You also have cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies, as you can see, the wallets and the Ethereums, as well as the blockchain, or the Bitcoin rather, again, transacted pretty much the same on the blockchain, as well as the metaverse, which is a virtual representation with the use of AR as well as VR. Now, my company, our application of blockchain is utilized within the real estate industry. The problem that we had identified in my country is that it is mostly a paper-based system that consists of 35 intermediaries. So if you were to buy a house in South Africa right now, it might take you an average of 6 to 12 months on a good time. But majority of the time, you'll be coughing out 18 payments at a time. So in order to alleviate that problem, we had found a solution by us integrating the entire real estate system onto the blockchain in order for us to be able to reduce the transaction times as well as costs by integrating the entire militaries and relieving the basic public from having to go through that entire process. And this is made in collaboration with Varsity Zime, which is basically a fourth industrial revolution mentorship program, as well as Innoviz, which is an entrepreneurship acceleration program, and lastly, Inictus. Oh, fire. The gift of fire was a pivotal moment in our human history. It has led to the reality that you and I now both live. Now, forget the impossibilities of it all, but what is history? Is it not just a composition of tales that are of the conqueror, of the tales told by the conqueror with total omission of the conquered? What kind of history is that? That leaves most of the truth lying in the dark. Now, I want you to imagine if there was a blockchain at the very pivotal moment of our human history, how we would know what happened exactly as it happened, therefore have a much more deeper understanding of our human history, therefore a much more deeper understanding of ourselves pertaining to that human history. Because at the end of the day, what is life without trust? And what is trust without freedom? And that is exactly what blockchain gives us. Thank you.
Details of how that works. Sure that only the people that are supposed to get the information get the information, and no one else. Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
So, when you're making a public key, private keys to sending over something, it is signed by, you send it to your public key, by your public key, but it is your public private key that has the ability to unlock whatever information and transaction. So that is how you are able to ensure that the right person actually does get the particular information for that transaction.
You know, there was something I read, and I haven't done enough research on this, but there was something, way back when I was a graduate student in mathematics, where they used very large prime numbers. And you had to have, it was a multiplication of two prime numbers. It would assign randomly two very large prime numbers that almost you could not figure out what they are unless you consumed hours of computer time. It would multiply them together, that would be the transaction key. And unless you had both prime numbers,
Yeah.
you couldn't unlock it. So I think there's something of that
Yeah,
kind of
something
thing happening here that makes it secure because you just don't have the computing power to hack it. In other words, if it's a 4-digit code, can you hack a 4-digit code? How long would that take?
Because even when a person were to try to hack the blockchain, they would have to hack each and every single computer across the world that is connected to that blockchain, which is what makes it immutable. So if you were to upload information, as I said, that it is uploaded into like the blocks. So even if you were to try to change a word or a character, you'd have to hack it all. Because since the database is distributed.
I think underlying it is some sort of that prime number kind of key
Yeah.
that makes it hard to,
It's a code to get into every single one.
yeah. And, you know, you have to separate blockchain from cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a relative, you know, most currency is founded in what? Gold reserves or, you know, national assets of some sort. And cryptocurrency is just a relative, you know, it's created, it's out of nothing.
Yeah, it's based on the value that people give. So it's kind of like NFTs.
Right.
It depends on the value, the same way in which the value of a Mona Lisa, you know. I tend to look at it as a person walking into an art gallery. There's some people that understand art much more better than I will see or value arts much more better than others do. So for example, with that monkey or that egg that I showed, which sold for millions of dollars, till this day, I could not understand why someone would want to buy it. So it depends on the value, but I feel like it also depends also on the hype that people put surrounding that particular NFTs, because there was an NFT boom. And I remember there was a kid, a 12-year-old, who sold his cell phones for 12 million and someone actually bought it. So again, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It depends on the value that people actually find. It's just his selfies, and it's not like he's posing or anything.
But it's the blockchain technology that secures the transaction.
Yes,
So the blockchain, separate from cryptocurrency, can be used in
supply chain.
supply chain management and the exchange of delicate information, and even more secure fiscal transactions.
Yes, because it's more of like we digressing back to bartering. Without the need for government institutions to really intervene, because a lot of people tend to look at the blockchain from an aspect of crypto only, and they tend to conclude that it's crypto only, but in reality, it affects all of the industries. So for example, something like the SSI, you will need, at some point, you will need to carry your ID around, because that is something that is currently being developed in terms of you having your identity on the blockchain. And that also ensures that companies such as Facebook, for example, don't utilize your data to perform otherwise the activities utilizing that data. So it gives the people much more control over who has access to what, which is what I think the slogan of crypto, actually the blockchain, is giving power back to the people, which is why I feel a lot of governments, even all over the world, they've been trying to look at a way in which they can still have the blockchain work for them, because they're starting to see that it's taking away more of the power, because it's forcing the governments to be more accountable to its people. So yeah, any other questions?
Explain to them two things. One, how a real estate, if I'm selling my house.
Yeah.
Why is that so ridiculously complicated in South Africa?
Partially it's because you also have to look at the history of South Africa. So South Africa had been invaded quite a number of times. Because of that, even though we are 28 years after democracy has been established, 80% of the South African citizens are Black, African, and 10% of them are white, right? But of the 10%, the 10% actually control 80% of the economy. And that dates back to the colonial times, because the government is now trying to do what is called a radical economic transformation. But you cannot really have a radical economical transformation if you don't have land, because land is wealth, right? So systems like the blockchain is going to assist in terms of even land titles in them being stored, which is the reason why I was saying that if we had blockchain in the most pivotal parts of our human history, we would understand what belongs to who, because they would not be trying to debunk all of that. So South Africa has a backlog in terms of that. And they also have an issue in terms of the deeds office, which is when I was interviewing the real estate agents, they kept on saying that it doesn't really matter how fast their internal processes are, because at the end of the day, they're still dealing with a government that is not so digitally transformed, which is, when you're looking at it from a real estate point of view, it will take you 35 intermediaries prior to you making that sale, which again, you still have to wait, because sometimes it will take you up to 6 months to even get to put in an application from the deeds office to be transferred to you, and then all of a sudden the system goes down, and then you have to start all over again. I know of real estate agents that have lost thousands, if not millions, in terms of transactions. And part of the transaction process that makes it a little bit complicated too is that sometimes actually the process requires that if you are buying property from me, what would actually happen is you need to pay me prior to you. Yeah, you need to pay me for the property prior to you even getting the title deed. So do you see also the risks that are involved? So what we basically doing is that instead of the clients having to go through all of these intermediaries, the different intermediaries in terms of that are not so transparent, resulting in the corruption and everything, we just develop a system to also mitigate the redundancy, because all of these institutions are working on their own separate databases, which is also redundant, that have the same information, rather than it being separate, integrated into one. Give them a hybrid kind of blockchain, whereby they still have more majority votes, but at the same time, just lower the transaction as well as the cost fees on doing.
So if you're selling a piece of property, there's 35 people that have to sign off on it, basically,
Yes, it is a good.
and approve this and sign off. That's insane.
And it's still paper-based, and there's 18 payments that you have to go through.
Does paper get lost? Does it get altered? Of course it gets altered. So she's applying blockchain to this transaction to make the information immediately available to whoever needs it.
At the same time,
At the
and the
same-
great thing.
And then it can't change because no one
You
can
as
change
the
it
seller.
because, yeah.
You as the seller also have the ability to actually look at it in real time as to what exactly is happening to your transaction. So people are much more accountable than.
All right, so tell us next, and then I won't say another word, it's all for you guys to talk. How does your university facilitate your getting into this? Tell us that's a very interesting process.
Our university is really big on innovation and entrepreneurship. So they have the program, which is what I've shown, known as Innovus. So when you enter into Innovus, they take you from ideation stage. So you have a business idea, you might not necessarily have a very refined business idea. They help you in terms of refining it. Then they take you into incubation stage, whereby they give you real life and give you mentors in terms of how to run a business, business management, accounting, everything of that aspect. And then after that, they will make you pitch for funding. You'll pitch in front of the DVC, which is Prof. Modaun. She was supposed to come. They will pitch and the university will fund your business. Yeah, and then after that, you get post incubation stage, whereby they give you markets, both local as well as international market access. And the kind of market access is that they give you the CEOs of the banks. So we get to pitch in front of ministers and stuff like that. So they open up the market for you in that sense. So you find there's a shift happening in South Africa, whereby the youth are taking more of the power, because government has also opened up a lot of funding and grants in terms of the youth, especially females that are entering into the tech space. So that is how the university has been assisting me. And I'm also part of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Mentorship Program, whereby they've also opened up international doors, such as the British Council, in terms of them seeing and approving our projects, so that even by the time we finish with school, we already have running businesses. So we are already employing people, sometimes that are much more older than us. So yeah, that is how the entrepreneurship program works in my school.
You have to be.
I'm currently looking for you, because I recognized that I needed to scale. Initially, I started the business as an app and web development prior to me being exposed to the fourth industrial revolution and seeing robotics and working with robots and stuff like that, and being exposed to the scientific. So right now, I'm really good at it, so that I can scale. Hello.
So why should people trust the, and how would they know that you won't screw them over?
The reason why they would, I'm building my credibility right now. And in terms of the people that I'm working with, I'm a brand ambassador for Huawei in my country. So building my branding in terms of that and working with governmental institutions, also assisting that. So, as well as the regulatory bodies. So, yeah. So that's where the school or the university aspect kind of works for us, because they actually help us in terms of patenting the ideas as well as knocking on the right doors, basically. So yeah. Any other questions? Hello.
Where you just like, do you just wake up one day and think, yeah, I know that this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do with my team. Like, how did you lead up to this point, right?
Let me be honest in saying, when I was in, wasn't by choice. Wasn't by choice.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in high school. You feel it. When I was in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Everyone wanted me to be a doctor. I love money. I'm not willing to wait that long. I'm not willing to wait that long prior to me getting money. I did not really know what I wanted to do. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to go to university because, let me be honest in saying that 2019 was the worst slash best year of my life. That was the year my family and I lost everything. We lost all property. That thing is fine. We lost all property, we lost our home, we lost everything. That's how I got exposed to real estate industry in terms of some of the injustices that are within the real estate industry. So when we lost it all, we had to move back a little bit backwards, but my dad was smart in the way in which he invested. So South Africa is not entirely owned by the government because there's still some indigenous places such as areas that are designated to kings, right? So he bought land in those places and built there, so that's where we lived. So there was no money coming in. Both of my parents lost their jobs. My brother was still in university. I was just about to finish high school, and my dad kept on pitching. My brother's an accountant now. My dad kept on pitching for my brother because my father is an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. So he was trying to get my brother, because I'm the last one and I'm the only girl. So they were trying to get my brother into business, and he's trying to tell him to, at least register companies for people. But my brother wasn't feeling it. And up until one day, I'm like, if he doesn't want the money, I was in grade 11, I was like, I'm gonna do it. So I started teaching myself accounting, business management, and all of those courses in terms of cash flow, balancing, and stuff like that. And then I started my business in terms of company registrations and stuff like that. I did not start it out of choice. Again, it was to bring food to the table. So there is some form of money coming in. So since that was going so well, I was like, I don't think I need school. I don't think I need university. And I told my father, and my father was like, even if you don't go, it's fine. But then it started sounding kind of crazy. So I prayed and I asked God, I was like, God, I don't know where I'm gonna go with life. And I just it was all by chance, really, because I kind of applied for this degree that I'm doing, which is a bachelor's degree in ICT. I'm a second year. I applied because I saw there was a module for entrepreneurial spirit, and I was really big on entrepreneurship. So that's how I got into this, the IT aspect of everything. And then I did not necessarily know the incubation program that I was entering prior to me entering it, because I just thought that we were going to sit in class like this and we were going to be taught that entrepreneurship is whatever. And plus they said they were going to pay for full, the university was going to pay for us to go to a guest house for a week. And I was seeing people doing team building things, busy building marshmallow towers. And I was like, oh, this is soft life. This is the vibe. So I entered there. Thinking that it was all going to be green. The minute that we sat down, they were like, stand up, pitch your business. And they told us by the end of the week, you're going to be pitching for investment. I thought they were kidding. Up until I actually met Pokemon, and it was kind of funny because it was a 2-week program. They said if you don't come, if you're not invited to the second week, it means that you didn't make it. I was not invited to the second week. All of my other friends were. I saw them on their statuses. I was not told it was fine, but all of a sudden, the very next week, they told me that I had a interview with Prof. And then I pitched my business. I had no idea what the heck I was doing, but I got the funding. And then from there, the second year, which is this year, I got exposed to the other extracurricular programs that were in my university. That's when I got exposed to the blockchain, to the fourth industrial revolution kind of tech. Then I recognized the shifting in terms of the way in which the world works, which is the reason why I want to specialize in blockchain, because it's not just using real estate. I can actually branch out to every industry that I see fit. And because I'm starting with blockchain, but I am going to be branching out even into robotics. So because right now I'm gonna own the value chain in the entire country. So whatever system that my country is using, I want them to use my one. So that's basically how I got into the entire thing. It wasn't really by choice, situation, and circumstance kind of thing. So yeah. Any other question?
So when will this be implemented in the system? So you said the program you're doing. When is it gonna be like in there?
It's gonna be functional.
When? Yeah, I'm still working on phase one of the program because again, with South Africa being an emerging country, there's a lot of infrastructure programs, problems rather, and there's a lot of regulatory problems rather, that the government and policies that they're still trying to figure out. So I'm still implementing within next year, once I have a prototype, actually in the next 3 months, once I have a prototype, a working prototype. So that the first phase of the prototype will be done, so I can move forward and pitch. Yeah. Any other questions?
No more questions?
How did you end up out of this classroom?
I was invited by the Innobits. Okay? They had invited us to a sub presentation. No idea what that was. So I just kind of I showed up there and Ernest, you don't know Ernest?
They don't know. her.
They don't know Ernest? Okay, you do?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ernest is the director of the international office. And as does DUT, we sat down, the minute we sat down, they're like, get up, present your business. You might have an investor sitting in the audience, you never know. So we got up, I presented my business. I was one of, I think 50 people that were present. And Ernest was more interested in what I had to offer. And then that's when I got invited. I was supposed to come with my professor, but she got tired. So yeah, that's how I came into Chicago.
Ernst Schulten is like the Tessa of Aschaffenburg University of Applied Sciences. They're a sister school of North Park, about the same size. And we've had a relationship. We have a couple students here. I don't know if you know Jan Six or Sophia or Marie from that school that are here for just a semester. And we don't really send anybody over there, but we have a relationship with the school. He was bringing some students here to participate. There's a school in St. Louis, University of Missouri, St. Louis, Aschaffenburg University and another university in Finland. They get together in one of the three locations 3 times a year. They cycle it around. And MBA students work on a case study together, students from different universities. So they're on their way to St. Louis. And he said, can we stop by North Park and can you host them for an afternoon, which I did yesterday. We gave a campus tour, President Surridge and Dean Hicks talked to them a little bit. I gave a little speech as well. And then we had some students in, which includes Naomi came yesterday. My friend right here was there yesterday and a few others. And we had a session in which you participated. And we said, you know, what's the difference between countries? How is universities managed and handled? How are politics handled? You know, what do you think about, you know, gun laws in the US versus gun laws every place else in the world? And blah, 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 blah. So it was kind of, well, you tell them.
I mean, I enjoyed it. We didn't really talk about anything specifically. We kind of just rambled, but it was an enjoyable experience to talk to other people who live in the countries. I mean, I do it basically every day, but Germany, we don't really get many of them over here.
Right. So Ernst wants to do more with North Park, and he's a technology guy. I mean, there's an SAP. Who's had Papademos' course?
Hey.
We're going to put that course on. We could put that course on steroids by basically using SAP and case study through the whole semester that Ernst has developed. We're talking about, you know, we talked about transactions, you know, international transactions. Why can't we have a buying and selling relationship between 2 universities and have 2 or 3 students on each university be part of the team? Maybe the university in Europe is the buying company, we're the selling company, but another team might have the North Park as the buying company, and the other one is the selling company. We give you fictitious information about, you know, your projections and your forecasts, and you have to transact this business, and you have some random number kind of random generation that says, ooh, we have a supply disruption. How do you handle it? How do you handle the time zones? All that kind of thing, using SAP as a backbone as well. So he and I are gonna work on something like that over the next summer. So we're looking at these ways of getting an international experience real time. You know, not necessarily having to go there, but how can we enhance that relationship between two schools? Maybe students working on the same case study, you know, teams of 4. And, you know, you might get the slacker from that school, they might get the slacker from your school, they might get, you might have the, you know, the A alpha dog personality from this, you know, all that stuff is real when you deal with. So we're looking at things like that. So he says, I'm coming, want Zime to give a presentation. I just assumed Zime was a student of Schaffenburg. No, she wasn't. I found out later that, you know, she's from South Africa. And Ernst wants her to come and take a master's degree from his university. And he said, would you have her present? What's she going to present on? He explained it to me and I said, an understanding of blockchain or an introduction to blockchain would be very good. Plus, it would be very good, you know, who feels like a slacker after listening to her? I did yesterday. I mean, I was like, wow, I want to be like, you know, I'm pushing 70 years old and I feel like a slacker. I got to get my button gear. Try to be like her more. So I thought she gave a great presentation. That's how she ended up here.
Yeah.
Long story to a very simple question. Anything else? Anybody else want to ask her a question? Who else has started their own business?
I gotta get.
Who wants to start their own business?
What business you want to start?
I have no clue.
You just know you're going to go into business.
Yeah.
Not, you know,
I mean, it doesn't really count, but I convert people's tapes. I've been doing it for like 3 years now.
what do you do?
Convert old videos from people.
I into just a different business. Develop like a business model.
So their university actually, you're majoring in this, right? This is your degree program is in entrepreneurship and innovation.
Yeah.
What do we have? One course? Entrepreneurship, and who teaches it? Homer. Did you take it?
No, that's what I'm taking with them right now.
Okay.
Small business and entrepreneurship.
Why don't you have something like this?
Back to. Without.
She had a
I
week.
mean,
No, but it's, you know, it's more geared, your university is obviously more geared toward than ours. We're giving you a
Like,
brief taste of it and they're actually forcing you to actually do it.
because each and every single, whatever course that you take, you must have information in it. Like, for example, I have a friend, and he is producing his own petrol and diesel. He's producing it from plastic.
Oh.
Pure diesel that costs 75% less than what they actually being paid right now. Than what we're paying for right now, rather, as well as it cleans your engine much more better. And they're just trying to regulate it. So that's the kind of like innovation that our schools really prepared with. So I guess it's kind of an advantage that it is a developing country. So we also have problems everywhere. Just needs the right people to solve them.
Very interesting. So, thank you for being here today. She's got a flight later to St. Louis to catch up with all the other people that you're going to participate with in the next week.
Mm.
And any other questions, please? That's it. We'll do it again on Friday. We'll finish up the lecture on metrics and do the worksheet. There's an incentive to come to class.
great platform.
Probably not. So, I mean, I will probably be here. I won't be in this room, but I'll be in my office because I have a 10:30 meeting that I'm actually chairing that I got to be here for, but why am I gonna torture you guys for an extra day?
I mean, you don't have.
I wouldn't mind it.
I only use your phone.
I barely.
I am not lying.
I like a star sign.
You want to stay here for another hour?
Self-taught or self-sexual in school.